Today I'm going to share with you 5 powerful mindsets that make quitting booze and staying stopped way easier than you think. Most people think that it's white knuckling it through your cravings, right? That willpower grind. I say bugger that. I've got a different method. I stopped drinking myself in 2013. I've been coaching people to ditch it for a decade. And for me, it's all about mindset and perception. So let me walk you through these 5 mindsets in sequence, one by one. What if the key to ditching alcohol isn't some hidden secret, but something that's been there in front of you for your whole life? Back in the day when I was drinking, I used to think that it was owning stuff. That was the win, the flashy car, the nice pad. But at the same time, I was waking up every morning, more often than not with a hangover, foggy, painful, dragging myself out of bed. I'd have to force myself to get stuff done, skirting around the truth as much as possible. Jean-Paul Sartre said, humans are condemned to be free. And he meant by that, like it or not, we're all tied to our choices, right? Even if that choice is doing nothing. And to be blunt, reality doesn't give a fuck. Consequences don't care. I was owned by the alcohol that I was putting in my mouth and the hangovers that inevitably followed. Looking back on all those hangovers that I had, the hangover itself doesn't have to be a stinker to ruin your day. For me, it's all about choices and trade-offs. If you don't own your choices, someone else does. The alcohol companies, the bar owners, the liquor store owners, and that just leaves you as a slave to your own mess. I remember those first days alcohol-free. That first day specifically, I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'd been restless all night and I just got out and started walking around the block. It was quiet, there was nobody around. But these things get easier and easier as you're moving forwards. It's something that has really stuck with me. Getting up early, getting out with the boys, no more self-inflicted hangovers ever. I'm out before the sun, breathing fresh air, whether it's here or in the mountains. Start as you mean to go on. Own the day, keep it simple. Figure out the simplest things that will bring you some happiness in life, and then own it. Own your journey. And then you can start to face the person who poured the poison down your throat. The more you live the alcohol life, the more you'll dodge the idea of living life without alcohol. It's just part of the habit. Even when everything about that life is screaming at you to stop. I used to point everywhere else. Stress, my mates, anything but towards me. And there's 2 sides to this, fixing the mess and owning the journey. And the first one can cut deep. That's accountability. Every drop of alcohol that ever went in my mouth, I put it there. Each time I lifted a bottle, each time I tipped a glass, my hand, my call. I always look at it like it's a habit. It's not a disease or a faulty gene working against you. And every habit is built on repetition. Every repeat, mouthful after mouthful, it builds this trap, your thoughts, your actions. Like anything else in life, when you own your own journey, there's no one left to blame but you. That's accountability. You're here with who you are in this moment because every thought and every action you took to get here. Facing that truth made me sick. But if you don't face these things, then you can't change them. Then there's a second side to this. Once you nail down accountability, you unlock something else. Sartre's condemned to freedom. It's owning your ability to respond, right? That's for me, that's the best part of responsibility. Your life is what you make it, and there's no bullshit in that. That's daunting in the beginning, but take responsibility. Know that you have the ability to respond in a way that makes change happen, and it becomes exciting. First few months, I'd get out in the morning at 5:30, and I'd do 20-25 kilometers, just pounding it out. Lots of exercise, lots of distraction, lots of time to unravel all this stuff. Oh, where am I supposed to go? How am I supposed to do this? How am I supposed to think now? And what flipped it for me was accepting that I built this habit, and if I could build it, then I could unbuild it. I could destroy it as well. Grab the Sober Kickstart kit below if you want to get started on this. Nietzsche called this the will to power. Your strength in how you use your mind to move your life in the direction that you want it to go. And for me, that means consistent positive outcomes. So where does the alcohol fit into any of this? Any other drug, where does it fit into it? Where is it going to take you? Nowhere good. Drugs for fun means that you're just submitting to your own worst desires. Responsibility, or your ability to respond, that also counts when We're talking about those urges that are still trying to drag you down, the cravings, the discomfort, all that kind of stuff. My granddad used to say to me, be the master of your own kingdom, and if you do that, you can do anything that you want to do. And that's the trick. And for me, there are three different areas of control. First are the people, and you have very little control over most people in your life. They'll do what they want to do. Second is the environment. On some parts of your environment you can control, but most of the stuff outside of yourself, you don't. And third is up here in your mind. And that's where you have as much control as you choose to take. As much control as you choose to take. You can't shove your energy in two ways. It's either booze or the life that you want. You know, we don't see that in the beginning because we're on the inside looking out. I remember a guy saying to me, trying to be smart, he said, where are you going with these walks? As if there has to be a destination. This is the best start to a day that I can think of, and it certainly beats getting up in the morning with a dirty hangover or the remains of a hangover from a couple of days ago. And it doesn't matter where I am, it's just a strong setup for the day ahead. It's a trigger for those consistent positive outcomes. When I go back to that idea of you are where you are because of all the thoughts and actions that you've had up until this time, it reminds me of a book I read many years ago. It was called The Art of Happiness. It was co-written by a guy called Cutler and the Dalai Lama. And in the book, they were talking about being your true self, aligning with your true values in life. And I suppose it's what we mean today by being your authentic self. When I was a drinker, I never understood what being authentic meant. You know, how can you be authentic when you're living this Jekyll and Hyde existence? One part of you is trying to succeed, the other part is getting drugged out. That drinker, I'm thinking, I'm saying, I'm doing things that my normal self would never touch. And, you know, looking back especially, it felt like I was living through a split personality. And that creates a constant turmoil in your life. You know, you are where you are because of all the thoughts and actions that you take. And if half of those are under the influence of alcohol, or even a quarter of it, you know, half of my life wasted as a druggie, while the other half gets up in the morning and tries to pull all that stuff back together again. Fuck that. Insanity's not just about doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. It's trying to make a life with two separate identities that are pulling in opposite directions. If you want consistent positive outcomes, you got to think and act consistently. There's just no dodging that. There's a twisted futility in trying to build anything real when you're fucking yourself over every night. Once you turn off that alcohol tap, you start to focus only on one path and you leave Hyde on the other path. Here's the last piece of the puzzle to really set your mind free. Ask yourself, what's the one anchor that still chains you to the shore even after you've cut Mr. Hyde loose? Your past. Whatever that past might be, guilt, regret, worrying about repeating the same mistakes over and over again. All your old thinking, all your old actions, they're still there in the past, but these are the things that if you focus on them, they're going to lock you inside of your own head and they're going to make it impossible for you to move on. You know, I've said that the best time to stop drinking alcohol was 30 years ago and the second best time is now. But it's bullshit, right? Because you can't change anything that happened 30 seconds ago, never mind 30 years ago. Now is your only shot. So the only time that you can change anything, that you can make any changes happen, is right now. The past is done, it's finished. So thinking too much about your past is just burning energy on a ghost. One of the biggest lessons I learned from The Art of Happiness was your mind is flexible. It doesn't matter what your past actions or what your past circumstances, everyone has the ability to cultivate positive habits. Now, I think regret is necessary. I think it's essential. Why? Because it points out where you went wrong. And it's the engine that hopefully prevents you from repeating the same mistake over and over again. And it steers you into a positive direction, towards positive change. And the stupid part of regret is holding on to it after you've made the changes happen. You know, that's just torturing yourself for absolutely no reason at all. And you're perpetuating the suffering a long time after the suffering has served its purpose. Let it go. For me, when I'm thinking about happiness, it comes from working on my inner game. You know, forget what's happened in the past. Forget what's happening outside of yourself, out there in the moment. There's a lot of stuff happening, nothing you can control. And the only way that you can change your past is by reframing it inside your mind. And it's easier to do once you've got some distance between you and the alcohol. So start asking yourself this: how does what I'm doing now line up with who I want to be, not who I was? When I'm coaching someone, I want to see them switching their focus away from pain to pleasure, right? So instead of stopping because of the shit that might happen if they don't stop, they reframe this towards all the good stuff that's going to happen if they do stop. And that's a really subtle shift. It's switching from fear to hope, and it works every time. Your past isn't the enemy because it's not even in the fight. It's just a bystander. What matters now is now and what you do with it. So take control and own your journey. Your choices, not the bottle. You run the show. Take responsibility. You poured this stuff, you put it into your mouth. Now you can stop it, full stop. Then reject any kind of subservience. You know, master your mind and stop kneeling to the urges and the cravings and all the shit that's going to bring you back there. Then start living authentic to you. One real you beats any split life mess any day of the week. And then finally, reframe your past. Let it go. Focus on the now, not on the old ghosts. You know, it took me a long time to realize these things. I went through a lot of different painful lessons at the beginning, but I went from a hungover wreck to living a life that I'm enjoying. Starting off every day with those fresh walks, either on the beach or up in the mountains with the boys. Free and no regrets. Grab the Sober Kickstart kit below. Come to habitsv2.com for our full program. Drop a comment down below and tell me how you're going to own your journey. Take care of yourself. Speak to you in the next one. Onwards and upwards. Keep the alcohol out of your mouth.